And we're rolling. Is it true?
Yep, we're live.
I'm live. I love when you say that, Carrie. And it is Thursday, November the
Second.
first, second, November 2nd. And we're headed towards a full moon. So anyone out there can feel the increase of energy and that we're going to be sleeping a little bit less in the next few days. I just finished a radio show with Colette Baron Reed on Hay House Radio. So if any of you are interested in really delving into the influence of this new full moon, which is about Sun in Scorpio, Moon in Taurus, go check out. It was such a fun show. We are old sisters of many lifetimes, but particularly this lifetime. We've been friends for over 20 years, and we work together. And in fact, you know what? We're telling everybody we're going to combine astrology and the oracle cards in May of next year. Where are we now? November, December, January, February, March, April, May. It's not that far. In 6 months, we're going to teach a class together in Boulder. So if any of you are interested, you can write to Silverman Support and say, I want to study with Debra and Colette. You can only imagine how much fun that will be. So today we're talking about the next period of time. How long, Carrie, over the next like 2-3 months? We're going to go through, is that right, Carrie?
Yep, through January.
So November, December through January, I'm going to take you through every single planet and take a dive in to understand the nature of the planet's influence and how it affects you personally as far as its archetypical influence. So it will appear like the first today, we're going to talk about the sun for half an hour. Like you would all think you know the sun, but to actually stop and think and consider the influence of the sun on our lives, and the sun sign being the astrologer's centerpiece of their whole life. Like we put the sun out and then the whole world revolves around it and every plant leans towards it. And I'm in Hawaii, and it's the island of worship of the sun. So we're going to go through all 10 planets, starting with the sun and then going consecutively through, with the invitation for you to consider the astrology school, which is starting in February. The cart opens in January. So we're only 3 months away. November, the month of November, December, and January. So these next 3 months are leading up, and you can become part of the early bird list by writing to apprenticeship, one word, apprenticeship at Debra silvermanastrology.com. And then you get these free, way more depthy free classes. But if you become part of the wait list, and that's what we're advertising today and why I'm giving away these free classes, then we'll inform you leading up to the class of astrology information, and I'll show you how I teach. So you'll get to know me, because some of you are, true blue fans who have been watching me because I've been doing this for 40 years. In case you can't tell, I'm old. That's not a bad thing. Some of you are brand spanking new. You just found my name, or you just arrived on my website, or maybe you just saw a Facebook link that said a free webinar. So the range of people doesn't matter. If you're someone that's been flirting with me for a long time, apprenticeship at DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. Attention, Misty. And Misty is the mistress of our school. And you say, Misty, I want to be on the early bird list. And then we send you out a free nurturing sequence of videos where I teach you how to get your chart, how to figure out. We actually have a special sequence that's going to be dealing with some of the planets we're addressing in the series this week or this next 3 months, but with more depth.
And I'll jump in too and say, actually the easier way to join the waitlist is to go to the link that I just put in the comments.
Oh.
So if you're interested in learning more about the school and joining the waitlist, make sure you click that link.
Yeah. So anyone out there, I keep thinking about my cousin, I bet she's here, who didn't, not that she didn't believe in astrology because she's an old soul, but she had no working relationship with astrology. And after doing all 3 levels, she's now doing readings. So you don't have to be an advanced astrology student to take the class. And if you are an advanced astrology student, you have to take the first level, because it's a psychological entrance. Like today, we're going to talk about your ego. So today's class is all about the sun. And the sun is the exact distance from the earth. I think it's 39 million miles. Can you look and see?
93 million miles.
I see, I have dyslexia. It's 93 million miles away from the earth, but it's the exact distance that the sun does not burn us, nor does it freeze us, nor does it keep too much light or dark. Like whoever made the design up of this planetary constellation called, or planetary configuration called our galaxy and the Milky Way, in the nature of this reality of you being human. If you think about it for more than 5 minutes, you're going to have your mind blown. I've been reading a book called The Cosmos, and it's a scientific America describing black holes and how the universe expands and then it contracts and how it accelerates. And then there's this thing called inflation. And then all the energy goes in it. If you spend more than 5 minutes considering your place in the universe, you'll see on one hand that you're just cute and little. Forget about it. You're a dot, and your lifetime comes in, it goes out, and you're kind of like an imagination. But from the Earth's level looking up, not from the heavens looking down, because that's when you're a dot and you're just a joke. But from the Earth level looking up, like just encountering our own bodies and our own psyches and our own charts, you're a miracle. Like your presence in this reality and your unique contribution that your personality is dressed up in. So just think about it for a minute. If you're an astrologer of any level, even if you just read your sun sign, you're interested in astrology, the first thing you're going to address is your sun sign. And your sun sign is simply, where was the sun at the moment of your birth? What constellation was it in and what degree? So here's the announcement. The sun moves 1 degree every single day around the sky. So we always know that on November 2nd, across all time, the sun will be in the sign of Scorpio, the constellation of Scorpio. Here's an aside, don't tell anyone. At the sidereal level, it's not really true. It's kind of strange. In the reality right now, the sun is actually in Libra. But in the physical space of it, and that's a hard truth. I hate telling people that because they get so confused. That's why, remember when that big thing went out in America that you're not really your sun sign, it's inaccurate? Well, there was truth to it. But as an astrologer, using a closed system called astrology, which has been anciently preserved and presented to us by these ancient monsters that made the pyramids, that knew everything about the intergalactic infusion. Like, there is a spiritual infusion. There is an intergalactic council that's watching us. No one ever talks about it because it sounds woo-woo. And I don't want to sound woo-woo, but I'm woo-woo. I was telling my kids one day, I don't believe in woo-woo. And they looked at me and said, Mom, you're an astrologer. Like, I think you should give up on that concept that you are woo-woo. But the woo-woo truths aren't so woo-woo if we had evidence that this magical science brought to us by astrology is so accurate. I was looking at your chart today, Carrie. You don't even know this. And you have 3 planets in Gemini, like your Venus and your Sun and your Mercury. So when and she's got Jupiter in Taurus. Carrie's our master of everything. She takes care of all the, the mailing list and all of you guys communicating. But I just been working with her for, I don't know how long, Carrie, how long has it been?
Like almost 3 years.
God, it's so, isn't that crazy?
No.
So I looked at her chart, someone I've known well from a working relationship, and I looked at her chart and I was like, oh my God, she's so 3 planets. She gets bored. That poor girl, I'm scared she's going to leave us after 3 years because she has to be stimulated. How are we doing, Carrie? You still here?
Yep, always. You make it fun.
Because that's your Jupiter's in Taurus and you're loyal. But so when you know that about someone, that they have 3 planets in Gemini, this information of where her sun was and her Mercury and her Venus, that this is a person that needs to be entertained. Now, that little piece of information brought to us by her sun sign, which is 39, say it again, 39.
93 million miles.
Why do I get that wrong? You know how I remember? Because 9 and 3 equals 12, and it's 12 signs in the zodiac, but I got it 39. 93 million miles. No, 93 million miles from Earth is the sun. 93. See, just take a minute with me. Humor me today. This is what you're going to, in astrology classes, it's much more personal. Like you're studying your own chart and you're taking a deep dive into your psyche and you're really getting to know the language to address this. But today in this Facebook Live, we're talking about the cosmic picture being so grandiose and the intergalactic influence that brought us this intelligence being so beyond concepts that we call it woo-woo. But in reality, every single plant, every single tree, every single animal, every single human is totally in devotion and is a servant to the sun because we lean towards the sun. What time do we get up? What time do we go to bed? When do we get to put our coats on? When do we take our coats off? What do we eat today and what don't we eat? It's all determined by the sun. Like it has an incredible constant influence. And in Egypt, it was called Ra. And the Egyptian culture was so much more advanced. They had over 200 years of peace. We have about 14 seconds. If you get along with your husband or your wife or your kid, you might have some semblance of peace for a sustained period till the dog barks and you get pissed off and you're burning the toast because you left it in the oven. And then suddenly you're like, we don't do peace on this planet. But in Egypt, the highest culture on the society, which I really want to go see one day, they sustained peace. And the sun was their absolute God. And so today our conversation is about your sun. And your sun is in the position of the moment of your birth simply based on the degree of where it was. So if you're born like today, November 2nd, you're going to be about 7 degrees into Scorpio because it's the 22nd that it started. Let's say Scorpio entered on the 23rd. So 7 days in is the 30th, that's 7 degrees. And then the first, so it's 9 degrees of Scorpio. It's so predictable. This is the kind of things you learn. You learn the relationship with this cosmic picture that you are one small speck of dust in. But I'm going to tell you something right now, guys. Listen to me. Your function as a soul is eternal. You cannot get divorced in heaven. You're stuck with you across time. Now, if you have a relationship with the sun, I happen to worship the sun every single day. I live in Colorado where there's 310 days of sunshine in the year. And I live in Hawaii where it's sunny every single day because I'm in devotion to that which created me, that I have given my power to this giant, white, yellow, bright, shiny gas of a star that gives us this incredible life force that's animating me right now, that's bringing light to the planet, that's bringing your heart. The sun rules the heart and it rules the backbone because it rules Leo. And Leo is the sign that says, I love being alive. I have enough will for both of us. Get on my back. So sun rules Leo. It's exalted in Aries. It loves being in Aries. Why? Because anytime the sun is in a fire sign, it's like, woohoo! So what I want you to hear from me today is, if you're interested in learning about your purpose, which is, yes, a piece of dust, and yes, it's going to come and go, but your soul follows you around like peanut butter does to jelly. It never leaves your side across all time. And the sooner you have a relationship with your soul, it makes me want to cry. The sooner you have a relationship with your soul, the quicker you're going to have a relationship with the evolution of you as an individual little speck. And then think of all the little specks, the 7.5 billion. If everybody were interested in learning about their soul, and that's why we study astrology. It starts with your ego, and your ego has to be strong enough to say, I'm going to go spend money on myself. I'm going to go spend time on myself. I'm going to make me the centerpiece of my world. But you know what? The ego is completely, totally caught in thinking it's important enough to be able to feel controlled and contracted and looks in the mirror and says mean things. The soul's like, please go study astrology. Please take your money and so if your soul and your ego become best friends and your sun sign is being driven by your rising signs, you want to write that down. The ego is the sun sign. It is the life-giving force that makes you animated and has no free will. And it's like a knee-jerk response. You just respond, you react, you can't help yourself. That's the nature of the ego. Some people say it's EGO, evading God's oneness, erasing God's oneness. Exercising God's oneness would be a healthy version of an ego. That's a great new version. So I want to ask you right now, stop everybody listening. How many people are in our room, Carrie, listening to us?
85.
Okay, we're almost 100 people in here. I love that. I want you to stop right now and ask this to yourself. What is the relationship I have with my ego? Like, am I aware of it? Just start there, no judgment. Am I aware of my ego's impulses? Because the sun sign describes your instantaneous response. I was working with someone yesterday, a client, she's a Leo, and she has moon in Sag. So she's very fiery. She's just like a wild thing. So I said to her, she just had an encounter with her boyfriend. It went a little bit funny, and her fire self showed up. And I turned on her observer and I said, listen, you can't stop your anger. You can't not be a Leo and get reactive. My mom was a Leo and she threw things. What you can do, however, and this is what my book is all about, the missing element. You can learn what your missing element is And then turn on your observer and look at yourself and go, I have such a temper, said the fire sign. That's what a fire sign, sun and fire would be, Aries, Leo, or Sag. I have such a temper, I had better warn my boyfriend. I get mad, but I'm not mad for the whole. I can't change that behavior over time. When you get older, you have more and more free will. But to start with, it's an exercise of pure love and unconditional acceptance. Like, can you accept that you have a big fat ego that gets her buttons pushed when you're a fire sign and your first impulse is to give your opinion about what he's supposed to do? And then remember to say, oh, by the way, I'm a Leo, so do what you want to do. I'm just telling you my opinion. That's called the aware ego. When the sun sign, when your ego's personality is conscious enough to call itself to the table, call itself out, name your impulse. So I want you right now to look at your ego. Everybody just take a moment and put your observer on. And first look at your ego by what you're wearing, the clothes that you put on today. So did your ego want you to get dressed up? Did your ego leave you in your PJs? Did your ego look in the mirror and say mean things to you? Did your ego give you a little compliment and say you're looking pretty good today? Your ego has a voice that does not go away. And if you're as big as a movie star where everybody feeds your ego, or you're as small as a insecure woman who doesn't really feel like her worth is there and your ego's about the size of a pin, that's the distinction. And inside of that story, the little cleaning lady whose ego's this big because she doesn't feel worthy, even though she's got a great job, or the movie star whose ego's way too big because she thinks she's special, all of them get humbled once you study astrology and you start to pay attention to this question. Is my ego serving my soul? Just write that down. Is my ego in service to my soul, or is my ego in service to itself? And if your ego's in service to itself, it's going to be not very sensitive to your feelings. Start with you. It's going to say, even those people that think they're being really egoless, I'm so humble. I don't have much self-esteem at all. That's called an unhealthy ego. That's the sun sign diminishing. The sun wants to be stared at and worshiped and bowed to and given ceremony for and doing prayers to it. When the full moon is here, by the way, which is tomorrow, you want to get down on your knees and say to this incredible cosmic powers, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I want to serve you. Will you please give back to me? It's okay for your ego to ask for what it needs, you guys. If your ego's so like humble, then you're full of shit. And if your ego's so big that you're so captured by who you are, then you're full of shit. But there's a middle land, and it lives with this position called the observer, where I can call myself out. Debra has an ego. And she thinks she's an astrologer, and sometimes she just thinks she's an ordinary astrologer, and sometimes she thinks she's a famous astrologer, and sometimes she thinks she's a really successful someone. And then here's my favorite story about my ego. Ready? This is a true story. I can't believe this story. So I found the best hair cutter. I moved to Hawaii, and I found the best hair cutter. This is my ego. And he was doing my hair, and I really loved, this is his haircut. I loved his haircut. And I got it done 3 times. It's now grown out. And when I went for the 3rd time, I asked him for highlights, just a few little blonde highlights. And he did it in a way I never had it done before. He actually bleached the strands and then he tinted it. I've only ever had it done where they just put the foil on it, they take it off, and it's done. So when he took out when it was bleached pure white before he did the tint, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I didn't mean white, I meant, and he got really mad. He was like, I said, it's not that I'm just scared. He was like, and he fired me. He said, I don't want to work with you. When I called for the next appointment, he said, I don't like you. And it hurt my feelings so much. And then I found another hair cutter in his office, in his shop, and he told her not to work with me. Now that's called an ego deflator. That's called, okay, so now we're going to tell stories. He's feeling bad. Maybe he had a bad day. Maybe he doesn't like pushy Jewish women. That's not a nice way to put it. Maybe he didn't like me being so upset, not trusting him. Maybe I talked too much. Maybe I didn't talk enough because I was on the phone. I don't know, make up 1,000 stories. But the ego's dilemma was, did I have my observer on? And did I laugh and think to myself, Deb, he doesn't like you. And it's not because he doesn't know my soul or because he doesn't know who I am, or it's because for some reason chemistry bumped. And I have the opportunity to tell you in all humility that it hurt my feelings. Isn't that the cutest story? My point is the ego has an absolute live vested interest in all of you. And your ego has got to be healthy while being humbled by your soul. And if these two don't work in tandem, if you don't have an ego and a soul, like that was my soul, my observer kicked in and went, Deb, he's okay and you're okay. It's one story in the middle of this giant planet of billions of years of life, with a star 93 million miles from here just deciding today it's going to smile on us. It's one little story. But my ego was like, and then my observer said, Deb, I got you. And even last night I was falling asleep, I started to laugh. I hear myself, I laugh because my observer kicks in and I go, she's so cute. She's needs to get approval. She has some Leo in her. So the conversation this morning or this afternoon or wherever you are, whatever you watch this, is in astrology, your sun sign describes the nature of your ego. So if your sun sign is in a water sign, Cancer, Pisces, or Scorpio, your tendency is to understate your value because you're nonverbal and your ego's a little softer, unless you're a Scorpio. But if you're a Cancer or you're a Pisces, you don't really see yourself. There's a place where you go really innocent and your ego diminishes. Water sign people understate their ego. If your ego sun sign is Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, it's an air sign, your ego spends a lot of time thinking about itself and wanting to dress properly and look cute and wanting to carry books with you so you can entertain your ego so you're not bored and wanting to make sure you have people to talk to because your ego is starving for contact and communication. It's starving. Whereas the water one's starving because it feels so insecure, like maybe people know what they're feeling and that they're really a wreck. And the earth ego is all about achieving money. Like Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn, you're basically identified with whether or not you produce success and how good you did your job and how clean your house is and whether or not you have a nice card. Your ego identifies with all that rather than being in selfless service, earth, or air, being in relationship with the self or water, valuing quiet and meditation, and not feeling like you have to feel identified with being the life of the party just because you're quiet. And the last is fire, Aries, Leo, Sag. If you have your sun sign in those three signs, your ego, you have so much chi, you get in trouble. You're too loud. This was what happens with the hair cutter. You're too loud. You're too energetic. You're too fun. You're too alive. Something's wrong. You've got too much life going on. It's annoying. And then you become self-conscious fire signs because you're ready for someone to get mad at you. That's what happened to me. And then the answer is, to the fire sign person, you get to celebrate the fact that you are a shit disturber and you do stir up the pot and people do get mad at you. And so what? This is the value of astrology. You look at your chart and you see your patterns. We're starting today with just the air sign. Sorry, that was me. Just the sun sign, which is an air sign for me. Just your sun sign today. That was just your sun sign. How do you find out your sun sign? It's simple. Your birthday, every single day of the year, the sun is in a degree in the sky that describes that sign. So if your sun is if you're born November 2nd, you look in the calendar of astrology, you get any astrology, but just Google someone asked the question, how to find your sun sign. You just Google online, my birthday is May 22nd. What is my sun sign? And by the way, 90% of people in America know their sun sign, even Christians, even Buddhists, even Mohammed's people. They are all interested. Doesn't matter what religion you are. We all once were Egyptians, way back in the beginning of time, when we all started here as small little cells that came and studied and worshiped Ra, the sun. So I'm about done. This was all about a conversation about you paying attention to your ego and the health of your ego and the relationship it has with your soul. So if your ego's healthy, you look in the mirror and you say nice things. You laugh at yourself. You have an incredible life force. Your life force is active because your ego loves to be alive. Or you have an incredible ego, incredible sun sign ego, and you're doing it with such conviction. Like, even if you're a shy little Taurus, you love staying home and gardening and cleaning and fixing the food. And you love you're not making any excuses. Does that make sense? Okay, Carrie, any questions from the Peanut Gallery?
I don't think so, but we had a few cool comments. Maggie said that you make it so easy to understand woo-woo. And Allie says, you don't know me, but you are my most favorite person in the world. So lots of good comments. Everybody is saying they loved it.
I'm so thankful, Allie, that, you know, the hair cutter didn't think I was the most favorite person in the world. And I think when we get hurt by somebody, and I thank him now because it gave me a chance to have a healthy relationship with my ego. I just got to find a hair cutter. I've had a lot of volunteers on Facebook, but it's hard to get you to Hawaii. I had the best hair cutter, by the way, for 10 years, and she cut my hair consistently, always. She's the best. But I stopped flying. I'm not in the same city as her. It's so sad. I felt like I was having an affair with her when I was with him. And then when he broke up with me, I wrote her an email and I said, guess what? And she was like, hit him. She was so cute. She was like, I love you. I was like, thank you. But that's all ego. It's his ego and my ego. And what if we could stop being stuck in our ego and we were devoted to our soul, which is the central sun of this entire universe? What if we could stop being stuck in our ego? I'm in the future some of the time. I imagine a planet where we are so healthy and we respect each other and we live a life of love. Coming soon to your neighborhood. Brought to you by Astrology and Debra Silverman. Debra Silverman Astrology is my website. My book, which will really inspire you to get to your soul, is called The Missing Element. Carrie, can you put a link to the book? If you write to my website, you can get me to sign it and to put your chart in it so I can give you a personalized copy. And then we have the Star Community. That's one of my sites that you can, for $22 a month, you can go to thestarcommunity.com. These are all Debra Silverman's tools to remind you about your sun sign and why you're here and how to fall in love with both you and this life. So thank you. Thank you for being here today and giving me the opportunity to fulfill my soul's purpose, which is to love and to dream and to never, ever give up. No matter how much is going on in your life, I promise you the sun is still shining and it finds its way into every single opportunity, every crook and cranny, every single place the sun could find itself, it sneaks in. I wrote a poem once when I was only like, I want to say 11 years old. It was a haiku. Ready? Love should be spreading like water upon the sand, not missing a grain. Can you believe I wrote that at that sweet age? Imagine when water hits the sand and nothing gets left out. Love could be spreading like water upon the sand, not missing a grain. If our egos and our sun signs were accepted and you knew how to be with who you were without wishing it were different, just that one small thing is going to change this whole planet. So I thank you for being here and I thank you for loving me. And I know that I'm an example of telling you, I always want to cry, that there's nothing more important on this whole planet than just the one thing is unconditional love. I don't even know where unconditional came from. How about there's nothing more important on this whole planet than love? And even when it gets really hard and sad and someone hurts your feelings, close your eyes and pretend you're the sun and spread like water does upon the sand, not missing a grain. Thank you.